BAND-MAID and Epic Narratives is finally here. We've been waiting so long for this. There's been so much build up. Obviously, we've heard tracks already. I'm not going to be doing a first reaction to tracks already heard, but you know, I'm so excited about this album, as I'm sure so many of you have been. I've been following this band since January 2019, and it feels like every time an album comes out from them, it's a big event. We've had obviously little EPs and things like Unleash come out from them, so it's been a while. It has been a while since Unseen World. It's been a while since we've had a full album, and yes, we've already heard quite a few tracks off of this, but it doesn't change the fact that it feels like an event. It feels great, and so we're going to be going through, like I say, track by track, avoiding the tracks that I've already heard before, which brings me to a bit of a curious case, because the first track on this album is Maggie. And okay, so I am going to do a reaction to this because I have not heard the studio version, but unlike a lot of this kind of fits in a bit of a grey area, this song, because yeah, okay, I've heard them perform it live a few times now. Obviously, I've heard I did a response, I believe, to the live video, but usually, as you guys know, I prefer to hear tracks in an album setting first, because the album setting, I think, is where you really get to hear what the band wanted it to sound like when they had time to manufacture exactly as they wanted. I've had so many conversations about whether live or studio is better. They're two sides of the coin as far as I'm concerned, but I usually like to start with the album version. So although I know this song quite well, I want to hear how it sounds in an album setting. So yes, this is probably going to be the least reactionist of the reactions that I do on this album, but I still wanted to do it. Plus, it's the first track on the album. I really want to get that feeling. Brand new album, bam, put it on. What's that first sound that comes through? I really want to be taken by it. I remember, like, you know, when you hear Warning for the first time, just the way that hits you. That's so cool, that introduction. Yeah, I want that. I want that feeling when you press play and the new album starts, and that's what we're about to get. So here we are. Maggie, well, I'm calling it Maggie, and then people told me after I did that video before, they told me that apparently it's taken from, I think it's the German word for magic. Apparently a few languages use this word as magic, so it's probably pronounced differently. I'm going to call it Maggie because I'm basic. Shall we listen to the song? Doing it on Spotify, just one more thing before I get into this. This is pretty obvious. Obviously, these are not video reviews. I get some people who are like, oh, I don't want to see you do a reaction to something if there's no video. Well, look, that's what it's going to be. All right? So, live with it. If you don't like it, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm excited to hear these songs. I could listen to them privately. I want to share them with you. That's what we're going to do. Let's go. Like a little bit of effects then, straight in. All right. Yeah, this definitely suits the thickness of the recording. Alright, here's that big chorus. That chorus, I mean, I know it's not for everyone, but I think there's nothing wrong with having a good catchy chorus. Stick it right at the front of your album. Loving them. Of course I'm loving the beat. Hashtag no bias. Iconic. The mix is really interesting. It's weird because I know that it's going to be a lot of discussion. I can already tell it's going to be a lot of discussion about the compression on this. But you have to give credit for the fact you can really hear everything. I'll get into that later. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I like it. This is a great, punchy song. Just like Morning, it is a great song. Put it in front of your album. It's got impact. It's a blast. It's quick. It's concise. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room whilst also addressing the fact that that's just an awesome album opener. Okay, sure, before we get into anything else, let me get the raw emotion out first of all. That is a great album opener. Let's just be clear about that. I mean, there's so many ways to open up an album, but yeah, I don't know, people have talked about Maggie. I'd heard people say, it's just, the lyrics are a bit generic in the chorus. I've heard all kinds of criticism about this song, but it's just infectious. Oh. There comes the ambulance. Bad choice of wording. Don't know if you can hear that. But yeah, it's just got this really infectious quality. Plus, for a song like that, it doesn't outstay its welcome. It's very sort of quick, almost curt, 3 minutes long. Just blasts in. I like the fact you get a couple of seconds of effect at the beginning, just to sort of like, what's going on, and everything comes in. It's a real blast. Now, I am going to address, songwriting, I don't really mind what people think about it. Yes, it's not the most expansive, creative, it's not testing all of the skills of BAND-MAID, but what it is just showing that there's as much skill to doing something really effective. I've often used this comparison before, like one of my favourite bands, this is a very different thing, but one of my favourite bands growing up was like Blur, and Blur generally were not like a heavy rock band. They did lots of intricate, interesting, different songs, but, that doesn't mean for me that song 2, woohoo, doesn't mean that's like a bad or a basic song. Sometimes you need a lot of skill to write something that's simple and effective, because that's a very different talent. In fact, if you're doing a simpler song, it's easier to make it fall apart. Atarashi Gakko Tokyo Calling. So as a result, this is an example of how to do something simple, but just as effective. You're so glad when it's on, doesn't outstay its welcome, comes to a close, nice, brilliant, perfect album opener, love it. Right, so let's just address the elephant in the room then. The compression, it's, I've said this before, I am not the sort of person who's going to say, I hate this because it has compression. It's really, really bad. In fact, there's only 2 songs I think I've ever reviewed on this channel in the last 6 years where the compression was a big, big problem. I think one of them was Love Survived by Scandal, and the other one, ironically, was The Dragon Cries by BAND-MAID, where I didn't have a problem with Tony Visconti's production. I liked the production, but something about the mastering, I don't know who did the mastering, but the mastering on that song was an issue for me. But most of the time, a compressed song is not a problem for me. But I can already imagine there's going to be a lot of people crying about this one, because you can already tell this is not as dynamic as even some of the more compressed BAND-MAID songs. I can already speaking about that. But what's interesting is that you can tell the person who's mixed this, or whoever's done the mix, has done a really good job, in my opinion, because it's been mixed with the compression in mind. Things turn up in the places they need to, so nothing gets crushed. I mean, my favourite BAND-MAID album thus far is Conqueror, and my biggest problem with Conqueror is that although I love the arrangements and the production on it so good, sometimes in the mix things get lost, they get slightly crushed, and you have to really listen hard to hear things you maybe shouldn't have to. In this, compression's a little bit more than I would necessarily say I'd like, but just listen how, the bass turns up where it needs to, so it cuts through. Nothing is lost here. So if you don't like the dynamics, that's fine, but nothing is lost here. You can hear everything. I like that. The backing vocals, Miku just burst in. You hear her vocals. It's there. It's great. The drums, you hear her a little bit when it goes into the verses, and it's a little bit more sparse. You get those little breaks, where the sound drops away. It's not like the compression is an issue where you don't get the little breaks and the little bounces. I think if this song is an indication of what the soundscape of the album's going to be, I'd say, maybe not the most dynamic, but I love the fact we can hear everything. So I'm fine with that. I ain't got a problem with that. And yes, a big shout out again. for such a simple, direct song, the musicianship really shone through. Again, Akane, absolute hero here. Did like the fact, again, like I say, that Misu's bass came up. You could hear it there. You could hear the sort of like nice chugging, dirty bass sound, and then it sort of went into a little bit of intricacies, but mainly was rumbling along with a lot of power. The backing vocals were clear and audible. Yeah, and of course, yeah, the lead guitar cut through. This was great. I really enjoyed this. Thought it was a powerful album opener. Can't wait to go on to the next track. Now, the next track is obviously not Shambles, because I did that. Protect You, did that. Is not Show Them, did that. So the next one we're going to be doing is track 5, Forbidden Tale. I'm going to jump onto that. So I'm going to do that next and publish that ASAP. But thank you so much for joining me. Tell me what you think, and until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these, which will probably be very soon. For now, ciao, ciao.